I was doing a little bit of reorganising on my collection, and I thought I would do a bit of a video about the format of DVD. So DVD is the format that I think people are at the moment kind of getting rid of in favour of buying either Blu-ray or probably even 4K now, and they're kind of getting rid of the collection. And these now are, DVD now is at the point where it's considered to be more or less worthless. However, if you are familiar with the sort of the cycle of collecting, you'll know that after the format gets a little older, it'll actually start to pick up value again. And I think that there are some examples now of movies that are becoming a little bit more collectible, or editions of movies, I should say, and or ones that I think will be. So I've just gone through my collection and picked out a bunch of films where I think they are either starting to see a rise, or will do in the kind of near future. The first one we're going to have a look at is this one, and I do this one first because I think this is probably the one that is the most common out of this bunch I've selected. But this is a film that has a somewhat of a personal connection to me, because this was the hospital here. This is a 2013 movie, and this is my lowest rated review on the channel. This is the lowest the lowest score I've ever given a movie since I've been doing the channel. It is the worst film that I have seen and reviewed. Why did I buy it? Well, I'm a sucker for punishment. Now, the reason why this movie is kind of a little bit more collectible now is because this movie is so shocking in some respects. It's going to be like, on the surface it looks like a haunted house, or a haunted hospital more specifically, but it's actually got a hell of a lot of rape and kind of violence against women. And this is a slipcase edition here. Now, when this film came out, obviously I had done the review on it, and people didn't realise what it was going on there, and a lot of retailers in the UK took it off sale because of the amount of complaints that this movie had got because of its multiple rape scenes within the movie. And as such, it's not massively. You can go into CEX and you'll probably find it, but you probably won't find it new now. So that is The Hospital. The next one we'll have a look at is Gwendolyn. And I've recently picked up the Blu-ray of this one, but obviously, as you can see here, I had it on DVD. Gwendolyn with the Adventures in the Land of Yik Yak, to give it its full name. And this stars the late Tawny Kitaen, who recently passed away, and is based on a French comic book. And it's kind of an Indiana Jones style movie in a lot of ways, but it has this kind of like kinky S&M feel to it. Quite a lot of nudity in it. And this is the British DVD. And, you know, I've kind of had a look at the price on these, on most of these. And, yeah, this one's kind of, it's getting up there. It goes, you know, it's relatively kind of, you know, on the pricier side. Not loads, it's not mega bucks, but, you know, it's a little bit more scarce on the ground, this one now. And that is Gwendolyn. Again, this one is not hugely rare, to be quite honest, but again, I had a look on the like Amazon and CX and stuff and eBay to see, and this one's kind of going for more than average for a kind of a DVD movie. And this, of course, is the live-action Masters of the Universe in this kind of snapper case. And this one obviously stars Dolph Lundgren, and yeah, it's you know, He-Man's kind of a little bit more in focus now because of the recent Kevin Smith series, but this movie hasn't had a huge amount of distribution, and as such, it's a little bit more uncommon to find on DVD. And then we're talking about the Star Wars Ewok Adventures. Now, this is on Disney Plus, so you can see these movies no problem. But as a physical media release, you know, it was only ever released in this kind of double pack, I believe. It's never been on Blu-ray, and it probably never will be because they're not considered canon anymore. And there is an American version of this. This is the UK edition, and this is both the Ewok films, neither of which are very good, to be quite honest with you. But they do, you know, they do have that authentic Lucasfilm or later Lucasfilm Sheen. I think they were misguided in what they were trying to do with these films, but there you go. So this again, it goes for you know, a little bit more money than kind of your average kind of DVD. I think in CX it's about £20 around that kind of mark. So it's not mega rare, but yeah, nonetheless, it's kind of worth picking up if you see it for cheap. Now we're going to move on to some editions that were exclusive to a retailer, and specifically a retailer called MVC, which is quite a long deceased retailer in the UK. Everyone thinks HMV, but there used to be one called MVC, and they actually did quite a lot of sort of versions of films that were exclusive to them, kind of, you know, specific releases. The first one we talk about is the Resident Evil, and MVC loved the digipack. So this is the digipack, as you can see here. It's got this nice kind of case on it with, I've got to say, quite nice artwork. And then you get the pull-out with the kind of the more traditional cover, and there you go. You have the inside there. So yeah, so MVC long since gone out of business here in the UK, but they did do a few nice editions, and there's a couple of others I'm going to show you. Next up is Dog Soldiers. This is probably my favourite out of the MVC releases because it's just such a, you know, a striking image, to be honest. And this movie to date has yet to have a Blu-ray release in the UK. It's had a couple in America, but as of this video, recording this video, has yet to have one. And again, this is an MVC exclusive, and once again, a digipack, which we'll get into in just a second. Great movie, directed by Neil Marshall. He directed this and The Descent, which is his two best films, if you ask me. And yeah, once again, we have a nice digipack there. So that is, they're a little thinner than kind of your regular DVD editions, and obviously they're kind of cardboard, so they are easy to damage, but there you go. Next up, and this is also an MVC edition, except this is not a digipack, it just has a slipcase. And this, of course, is Wrong Turn. I do enjoy Wrong Turn. I'm not a huge slasher fan, but the Wrong Turn, the first movie at least, I really enjoyed. And once again, this was an exclusive slipcase to MVC. And rather than the digicase, obviously, it just kind of pulls out. And there you have your standard DVD case there. This one's got kind of like a foiled, like blood here, and also obviously the title. And again, this is a sort of thing you might see at a car boot sale. People selling it, not realising it. It's an exclusive, so if you see that, pick it up. Next up, we have the 30 Days of Night, which I think is an MVC one. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but I'm fairly sure it is. And then once again, you've got the DVD in a slipcase, and this time you actually have the actual DVD, and you actually get a mini version of the comic book, which of course is what it's based on. It's based on a comic book. And you actually get a nice little case for the, well, just a protective sleeve there for the comic book. And of course you've got the fantastic artwork there on the actual slipcase. Again, probably if you see this around, it's worth picking up because this was actually an exclusive edition. Now we're going to move on to some imported DVDs. Now, some of these might not be as rare in their native countries, but in the UK, and even sometimes in their native countries, these are still a little uncommon. So what we're looking at now is the He-Man and the Master of the Universe 2002 complete series. Now, obviously, again, with the recent series from that came out on Netflix through Kevin Smith, there's been renewed interest in the Master of the Universe, in particular this series, which was deemed by many to be a far better reimagining and reboot of the series. It lasted 1.5 seasons. It was cancelled midway through the second season. And this one, you know, I had a look at eBay here, and it actually is going for, you know, a pretty penny now. And I would agree. Whoops, one of the DVDs is trying to escape. I would agree it is a considerably better series. Now, this is a Region 1, so that's an American DVD. I don't think it's ever had a Region 2, which is a British DVD, where, of course, that's where I'm from. But nonetheless, we'll take what we can get. So that is He-Man. And then we're going to talk about Gargoyles, and this is a film that I've actually featured in another video I know I've done. And this is a great kind of early horror film. It's a TV movie, but it's really good, to be honest with you, for an older film. It's got an early role for Scott Glenn in it, and it's kind of about these these gargoyles that are kind of running around. Actually got pretty good makeup and stuff. And again, this is an imported DVD here, and this is, you know, it's a hard film to get hold of these days. It's actually came out. It's an older film now. It's 1972. But yeah, it's a fun movie, and one that is quite hard to pick up. Here's one I know that is pretty difficult to get. Here it's called Steel Arena, but it's actually probably most known as just Arena. And this was a full moon movie, and they've obviously put out a lot of their films. They've kind of redone them and put them out on Blu-ray and stuff, but they've lost the original negatives to this movie. So they can't do a Blu-ray release. They've you know, this is a German DVD, and I've seen this go on eBay. It doesn't come up very often, but it's about £100 now. So I was quite lucky to pick this one up when I did. It's one of my favourite full moon films. It's kind of like a Star Wars meets Rocky film. It's a lot of fun if you haven't seen it. And this, to my knowledge, is the only version, certainly a Region 2 version. They may have released a DVD version in America, but they don't. I know they don't have the negatives to make a Blu-ray version of it, so it's only going to be in this sort of quality. But worth picking up if you've ever seen it, and a fun film. And here we have an Australian movie, Quest for the Delta Knights. So once upon a time I used to collect VHS, and this is kind of pre-internet really, but I had all these, I was really into fantasy films, and I really wanted to try and track this one down on VHS, because it was a film that I'd heard of but never had actually seen. And I never actually found it on VHS, to be fair. However, I did manage to pick up this Australian DVD at one point. And this is a film that you just don't see very often. To be fair, the film isn't particularly very good. But nonetheless, it's obviously quite a rare film. And I believe has only ever been released in Australia in this kind of format. It's got David Warner in it, but it's kind of like a weird, sort of jokey, silly kind of medieval film. Here's one which you can pick up. Goes for about, I would say, about £20 to £30 on eBay. The Sorceress, and this was one of the kind of the early Roger Corman sword and sorcery movies, and they used a lot of footage from this in other movies. This is one of the more early examples there, and it's quick. You know, you've got this kind of chimera thing, which has been featured in many Roger Corman films, and you've got twin women, Lee and Lynette Harris, who play our sorceresses, who get their tops off quite often. Yeah, so this is the imported DVD. I have actually got this on Blu-ray now, but yeah, it's one of my favourite kind of Corman sword and sorcery films. So here's a film that I think probably very few people have heard of, and we did a review on this one, and this is one of the films that I watched with Paul, and this is Spoiler, and this one stars Gary Daniels. Now, I watched an interview with Gary Daniels on the Scott Adkins podcast, and Gary Daniels points to this film as his favourite film that he's made, but it's not a martial arts film. He plays the main protagonist, but he's not a martial artist. He's basically like a convict in the future that wants to kind of see his family, and gets getting put in kind of cryostasis and escapes a couple of times. This is a German DVD, and as far as I know, it's the only way you can get it. So you can probably still get this from Germany, to be honest with you, but it's never had, as far as I know at least, a release outside of that in the UK or the States. So it's fairly hard to track down, and you've got a couple of kind of recognisable faces in there as well. Of course, Gary Daniels, but also Jeffrey Combs. Then we'll talk about Vampirella. which is based on a comic book. This is an American DVD. At one point, I kind of wanted to collect all the kind of the live action sort of superhero movies, and this one is a superhero / comics book movies, you know, / fetish film that stars Telsita Soto and Roger Daltrey. It's not very good, kind of based on a over-sexualized kind of character, but yeah, it's not a good movie, and they keep saying they're going to kind of remake it, but obviously to this day it hasn't happened. This is Sahara, and this is a remake of a Humphrey Bogart movie. This one stars James Belushi, and it's probably my favourite World War II film, and an Australian DVD. And again, you can kind of pick this up from it in Australia, but it's very hard to find outside of that. And I really wanted to get it because I really, really enjoyed this movie about a small group of Allied soldiers that are defending a well against kind of a much greater and the kind of Nazi forces in the kind of like the Africa campaigns and stuff. You've got a real kind of like weird mix of different allies and stuff, which, you know, you've got Michael Massey in there as well. It's a real fun movie if you haven't watched it. Yeah, so there you go. One day I hope this gets a Blu-ray release. So let me talk about Deathlands. Now, I'll be honest, the only reason I got this movie was because it had Jenny Lano, who is kind of one of my celebrity crushes. And this is actually based on a series of books called Deathlands, and this particular one is Homeward Bound. And it's kind of like young adult novels, ultimately, that were made for boys, but they were kind of, you know, they were still under the kind of the Harlequin, you know, sort of banner of books. And weirdly, they only made this one film, and I believe it was potentially a pilot for a TV show. But it's an episode or a book that takes place kind of like midway through the story. So like all the characters and stuff are already established. So it's a weird film where you kind of like, you feel like you're kind of, you know, you're watching it and there should have been things that preceded it, but there isn't. This is it. This is the only one. It's not very good. When I did my review for this one on the channel, I was trying to find footage stuff to put on there. There's virtually nothing exists on it online. Now we're going to move on to some kind of actual sort of special editions from the UK. First one, this is really the only TV show that I've got in here. And this is the season 1 of 24. And they had this really kind of nice little case. And actually, the batteries have gone down now. But it actually had a little timer at the bottom here that would kind of count down. TV shows don't tend to hold their value as much, you know, obviously, compared to films. But I just thought this was a nice addition, this kind of steel tin case. I'm a huge Transformers fan, and this was kind of one of the best versions when it was on DVD to get. And this is essentially a tin case, the Ultimate Edition. Obviously now you get this on Blu-ray, but it's obviously a nice edition to have when DVD was the thing. And you know, I still enjoy it. I think it's still quite a nice edition. And then I have a couple of Anchor Bay releases, which I know are the kind of, you know, a lot of people are after Anchor Bay stuff these days. And this is Near Dark, which is, a lot of people really like this vampire movie. Oh, it's got a bit stuck in there. Should have prepped this. And it's essentially a digipack. So there's the back. Great role for Bill Paxton. I prefer Lost Boys. There's a lot of people go, oh, what's better, this or Lost Boys? I prefer this Lost Boys, to be honest with you. I still do enjoy Near Dark, but I don't think it's iconic as the Lost Boys. It's got a nice foiled feel to it, and as I say, the Anchor Bay stuff seems to be, if you ever see that logo and the car boots out or see it, it's probably worth picking up. And then sticking with Anchor Bay, got this Q the Winged Serpent in this kind of nice slipcase. A fun but silly kind of little monster movie. And again on the Anchor Bay label. And then last couple of ones, I had this Dusk Till Dawn edition, 2-disc collector's set, and this is like a kind of a feature-length documentary called Full Tilt Boogie, and actually got a demo of the game as well in there. Ooh. Again, the DVDs are trying to escape. We'll pick that up in a minute. Yeah, it's quite a nice edition. I do think this one, you see this one every so often, but there you go. And then my final one is Predator. My favourite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. And today, I have to say, if I had to pick a sleeve, which is my favourite, is this one. With a nice kind of good view of the Predator. And this had this kind of digipack. I've still got the J slip to it, as you can see here. And this is, again, has a digipack. Kind of, problem is with these things, they get stuck. It's just going to come out. Oh, there you go. There you go. So there you go. That is a selection of my DVDs that I have got. What do you think? Anyone's there take your fancy? Have you got any cool copies just on DVD? Let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.